So after the completion of chapter number 6 IDC, we need to see chapter number 7 registration. So whereas with respect to registration, one need to see here it is a pure theory topic. That's why I just jumped to the material. So with respect to registration, sir, what is meant by the word registration? Generally, registration means, what we can say is the person will come into legal existence only after registration. Only after registration you are able to collect the tax. Only after registration you are able to claim the IDC. So only after registration the people will recognize you legally as a person. Okay, ma'am. So that is called registration. And in GST, the registration is PAN based. That means person to person it will change. Person to person. And whereas under GST, registration is state-based, whereas under GST, the registration is state-based. What we can say is in this case, with respect to registration, that means in how many number of states you are having the place of business, that many number of registration certificates you need to obtain. Okay, ma'am. That means, let's say Masterminds is there in two Telugu states. In that case, Masterminds is liable to take registration in AP as well as Telangana. Okay. So, in number of states is equal to number of registration certificates. Okay, ma'am. Sir, what about the organizations? Let's say Masterminds. It is having 7 place of businesses in AP. Is Masterminds required to take separate registration for them? Answer is no. As long as all your place of businesses are there in the same state, then single registration is sufficient. There is no need for multiple registrations. Sir, in the same state, we are having the place of businesses, but they are doing different businesses. In that particular case, what is the position, ma'am? You are having multiple place of businesses, but within the same state, but doing different businesses. Sir, in that case, single RC is sufficient or multiple RC should be obtained. Definitely the point is simple here. As long as all your place of businesses are located in one state, if at all they are doing similar business or multiple businesses, in that case, what is the position, ma'am? In that case, the position will be simple. As long as you are having all these places in one state, single RC is sufficient. Let's say Masterminds has taken registration in AP, Andhra Pradesh. What we can assume it? Is it a SGST registration or it is a CGST registration? What it is? Generally, it is a GST registration. Under GST law, there is no tax-specific registration. That means single registration for all taxes. Whether it may be CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST, and cess. Okay, ma'am. Registration under GST is not tax specific. Whether single registration for all taxes, this is a point you should remember with respect to introduction part. And whereas, sir, who are the persons that are liable for registration? Initially, section 22 deals with persons liable for registration. Initially, section 22 deals with persons liable for registration. So, with respect to that, what we can say is, with respect to Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura. With respect to Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura. Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura. With respect to these four, whether it is supply of the good or a supply of service, the registration limit will be 10 lakhs. Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura. With respect to these four states, whether it is a supply of the good or a supply of service, the registration limit is 10 lakhs. Whereas with respect to Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Puducherry and Telangana, with respect to these 6 states, 6 states, whether it is a supply of the good or a supply of service, the registration limit will be 20 lakhs. The registration limit will be 20 lakhs. And whereas with respect to Jammu and Kashmir, Assam, Himachal Pradesh, simply rest of India, with respect to goods, the registration limit is 40 lakhs. With respect to services, the registration limit is 20 lakhs. This is the point that is there in section 22. What is the position? Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura. With respect to these 4 states, what is the position? The limit is 10 lakhs. With respect to goods as well as with respect to services. Whereas with respect to Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Puducherry, Telangana. With respect to these states, whether it is supply of the good or a supply of service, the limit is 20 lakhs. And with respect to rest of India, with respect to intrastate, all these points will cover intrastate only. Intrastate, within the state. So, the rest of India, if at all it is a intrastate supply of the goods, the registration limit will be 40 lakhs. Whereas with respect to services, the registration limit will be 20 lakhs. Okay, ma. This is the point you should remember here. What section 22 says. So, these are the limits that are specified in section 22. If any state, in any state if you are doing business and it exceeds these limits, definitely you are liable for registration. Sir, what about the persons who are having multiple places of businesses in different states? Let's say a person is having a place of business in Tripura as well as in Assam. Sir, in that particular case, what will be the registration limit with respect to goods? Whereas with respect to Assam, goods, the registration limit is 40 lakhs. Whereas with respect to Tripura, it is 10 lakhs. Now, what will be the registration limit? The registration limit will be 10 lakhs only, whichever is lower. The registration limit will be 10 lakhs only. Okay, ma. This is the point you should remember. Okay. See this here, Tarun of Assam, and another point is that I will explain you. Whereas with respect to pan masala, tobacco, all these items, irrespective of 40 lakhs, 20 lakhs limit will be applicable. Irrespective of 40 lakhs, 20 lakhs limit will be applicable. That is the point you should remember. Okay, ma'am. That is the point you should remember. See this Tarun of Assam, exclusively in the supply of the shoes. That means Assam means it is there in the rest of India, 40 lakhs is the limit. Therefore, the aggregate turnover is only 22. Whether he is liable for registration, answer is no. Exclusive supply of pan masala tobacco. In those cases, instead of 40 lakhs, the limit will be 20 lakhs only. So whether liable for registration, answer is yes, because the registration limit is 20 and the turnover is 22. And the turnover is 22. Okay, ma'am. Exclusively in the supply of taxable services. Exclusively in the supply of taxable services. So applicable threshold limit for registration 20 lakhs. Aggregate turnover 22 lakhs. So it is more than 20, therefore liable for registration because it is a supply of service. Sir, what about in Assam if a person is providing both taxable goods and services? With respect to goods, 40 lakhs is the limit. With respect to services, 20 lakhs is the limit. Now what is the position? Definitely the limit will be 20, whichever is lower. 20 will be the registration limit. It is 22, therefore you are liable for registration. In Telangana, what is the registration limit? This is the registration limit. If it exceeds, definitely you are liable for registration. And Manipur, the registration limit is 10 lakhs. If it exceeds, definitely you are liable for registration. If the aggregate turnover exceeds, definitely you are liable for registration. Okay, ma'am. Sir, just now you said that 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 40 lakhs limits now. What is this 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs and 40 lakhs? It is aggregate turnover. So, if a person aggregate turnover exceeds these specified limits, he is liable for registration as per section 22. Now the question arises, sir, what is meant by this aggregate turnover? So the aggregate turnover means all taxable supplies, exempted supplies, exports, interstate supplies, minus GST, minus RCM purchases. What is the amount we will get? It will be treated as aggregate turnover. Aggregate turnover means all taxable supplies, exempted supplies, exports, interstate supplies, minus GST, minus RCM purchases. What is the amount we will get? It will be treated as yes, aggregate turnover. If this aggregate turnover exceeds the specified limits of those 10, 20 or 40, definitely you are liable for registration as per section yes 22. The point here, sir, this aggregate turnover should be computed state-wise or all India basis. Aggregate turnover should be computed all India basis. That means all the branches which are having the same PAN. All the branches which are having the same PAN, all those states, the place of businesses turnover should be calculated. If it exceeds the specified limits, is liable for registration. Sir, what about deemed supplies should also be included? Yes, value of exports, interstate supplies between distinct persons, that means deemed supplies, all those items have to be included while computing the aggregate turnover. Okay, ma'am. And the point is here, sir, from which state he is liable for registration? That means he is having taxable supplies as well as exempted supplies. In that particular case, from which state he is liable to get the registration? The place where he is making the taxable supply. The place where he is making a taxable supply, in that particular state, he has to apply for registration. Okay, ma'am. But whereas he is not liable, his aggregate turnover is exclusively of non-taxable or exempted supplies, then there is no need for registration. Okay, keep it in mind the word. So here the point will be, from which state a taxable person shall be required to be registered. So from the place where he is actually providing taxable supplies. Sir, if the business was sold to some other person, then the other person can continue the business in the name of old RC, in the name of old registration certificate. The new person who acquired that particular business is able to continue the business? Answer is no. In case of transfer of business, change in the ownership, that amalgamation, demerger, in all these cases, definitely the transferee is liable to get the new registration certificate because GST registration is PAN based. Person to person, it will differ. That's why transferee is liable for a fresh registration in case of transfer of business. Okay, ma'am? This is the point you should remember with respect to section 22. And the next point is section 24, persons liable for compulsory registration. With respect to compulsory registration, irrespective of your turnover, the persons specified in section 24 are liable for registration. Okay, ma'am. Section 22 says, if your turnover crosses the specified limit, you are liable for registration. But whereas section 24 says, the persons who are specified under section 24 are compulsorily liable to be registered irrespective of their turnover. Irrespective of their turnover, that is the point you should remember, ma'am. Okay. So the first one is persons making interstate supply of goods now. When the act came, it is interstate supply, but now it is interstate taxable supply of goods. Interstate supply, interstate taxable supply of the goods. You have to remember that. Sir, what about, that means if the person is making any interstate supply of the goods, he is liable for registration irrespective of his turnover. Sir, what about interstate supplier of service? Interstate supplier of the goods is now only covered under section 24. Interstate supplier of service is not covered. Interstate supplier of service is not covered. So, with respect to interstate supply of service, they are liable for registration only their turnover crosses the specified limits of 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs depending upon the state. And in the same way, so what is the exception, ma'am? Interstate supplier of the goods is liable for compulsory registration, whereas interstate supplier of service is not liable for registration under section 24. But when his turnover crosses the specified limit of 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs, definitely he is liable for registration. This is the point you should remember. Okay, ma'am. Next point is CTP. Casual taxable person making the taxable supply. Casual taxable person making the taxable supply. What is meant by the word CTP? CTP means a person who is having a fixed place of business in one state and making some occasional supplies in other state is known as CTP. The person who is having a fixed place of business in one state and making occasional supplies in some other states, then in that other state he is known as CTP, casual taxable person. Okay, ma'am. So generally CTP is liable for registration as per section 24. That means he is compulsorily liable to get himself registered irrespective of his turnover. Sir, is there any exception? Yes, handicraft goods. Whereas with respect to handicraft goods, he is not liable for compulsory registration, but he is liable for registration when his turnover crosses those specified limits defined under section 22. Okay, ma'am. So generally handicraft items are not covered under compulsory registration. Handicraft goods are not covered under section 24 but they are covered under section 22. Okay, ma'am. Next one, the person who is liable to pay tax under reverse charge, that means RCM recipient. With respect to RCM recipient, he is liable for registration. He is liable for compulsory registration. Okay, ma'am. He is liable for compulsory registration. But whereas when the recipient is compulsorily going to be registered, if the supplier is making exclusive RCM supplies only, when the supplier is making exclusive RCM supplies only, in that case, what is the position, ma'am? In that case, what is the position? He is not liable for registration. So, RCM recipients are compulsorily liable for registration, whereas the suppliers of RCM goods, the suppliers of exclusive RCM supplies are not liable for registration because recipient is mandatorily liable to pay the GST. Okay, ma'am. And next one is NRTP. Non-resident taxable person. Sir, who is non-resident taxable person here? So, non-resident taxable person means a foreigner who is making occasional supplies in India. That person is known as NRTP. That person is also compulsorily liable for registration as per section 24. In the same way, persons who are supplying the goods through ECO. Person who are supplying the goods through ECO. That means the persons who are supplying the goods through Amazon, Flipkart, Snapdeal, all those people are liable for compulsory registration. In the same way, persons who are required to pay tax under 9(5), that means ECOs that are notified under 9 subsection 5. Who are the ECOs that are notified under 9 subsection 5? Who are the ECOs that are notified under 9 subsection 5? Who are the ECOs, ma'am? The ECOs that are notified under 9 subsection 5 is transportation of passengers, hotel accommodation, and next one is hotel accommodation and housekeeping services. These three types of ECOs are covered under 9 subsection 5. They are liable for compulsory registration. And next point comes, other than this, every ECO who is liable to deduct the TDS, obviously Amazon, Flipkart, all these ECOs are covered here. Okay, ma'am. So, next point is TDS deductors. Next point is TDS deductors. It is not in your syllabus, just the persons who are liable to deduct the TDS as per section 51 are liable to get themselves registered. And who are the agents? Because agents are covered under deemed supplies. That's why agents are also compulsorily liable for registration. And OIDAR services, online information database access or retrieval services. OIDAR service means online information database access or retrieval services. With respect to them, what is the position, ma'am? OIDAR service means, what is the position, ma'am? With respect to OIDAR service, Amazon Prime Videos, Netflix, Hotstar, these things will come under OIDAR services, ma'am. Those people are also liable for compulsory registration. ISD, Input Service Distributor, we know that one also. So those people are also liable for registration. Okay, ma'am? So these are the persons who are covered under section 24. Who are those persons? Interstate supplier of the goods, CTP, RCM recipient, NRDP, persons supplying the goods through ECO, ECOs notified under 9 subsection 5, any other ECO, persons who are liable to deduct the TDS, agent, person who is supplying OIDAR services. All these people are covered under section 24 compulsory registration. That means these people these people are liable for registration irrespective of their turnover. These people are liable for registration irrespective of their turnover. That is the point you should remember. Next one. Persons that are not liable for registration, section 23. As per section 23, who are the persons that are not liable for registration? Persons engaged exclusively in the supplying the goods or services are both not liable to tax. Persons engaged exclusively in supplying the goods, services are both not liable to tax. That means exclusive, not taxable supplies, exclusive, exempted supplies, if you are making. In those cases, you are not liable for registration. If you are making exclusive, non-taxable supplies, exclusive, exempted supplies, in those cases, you are not liable for registration. In the same way, farmer, agriculturist, up to the stage of cultivation, he is not liable for registration. Apart from this, remaining people, already we know that interstate supplier of service and all these people, CTP, of handicraft goods, these people are liable for registration only when turnover crosses the specified limit of 10 or 20. So this point is not relevant because we discussed this one along with section 24 itself. So now under 23 we only discussed 3: exclusive supply of exclusive non-taxable supplies, exclusive exempted supplies, agriculturist. In these 3 cases only, definitely we can claim the in these 3 cases only, we are not liable for registration. Next point is procedure for registration. We will see that. Wait a minute. This is a procedure we will see in chart. Okay, wait a minute. I will show you. So, with respect to procedure for registration, the form number is GST REC01. With respect to form number REC01, there are 2 parts, Part A and Part B. Whereas with respect to Part A, the details that need to fill is PAN, mobile number and email ID, state address. So, with respect to GST REC01, it is having 2 parts, Part A and Part B. With respect to Part A, the details you need to fill is your PAN number, mobile number and email ID. So these things will be checked whether they are correct or not. That means PAN number, mobile number and email ID are validated. PAN number, mobile number and email ID are validated. So now they are validated. PAN will be validated based on CBDT database. That means based on Central Board of Direct Taxes database, your PAN is correct or not, it will be verified in the back end. Okay, ma. After verification of PAN, your mobile number and email ID will also be validated. That means, how they will be validated? Mobile number and email ID will be validated based on OTP, one-time password. If after checking whether they are correct or not, TRN will be generated. TRN will be generated. Okay, ma. Temporary reference number will be generated, and based on this particular TRN, definitely Part B you have to file it. Using the TRN, applicant shall electronically submit the application in Part B of the application form. So after Part B was filed, now the authentication procedure will come into scene. I will explain you that point after 5 minutes. Wait a minute. So now the application will be forwarded to proper officer. But now in between you need to make other authentication. See this. How to apply for registration on the GST common portal, gst.gov.in. Part A, PAN, mobile number, email ID are validated. Part A, PAN will be compared with the CBDT database, mobile number, email ID based on OTP, and TRN will be generated, temporary reference number. this particular TRM. Based on this, Part B will be filed. After filing of Part B, now the new concept of other authentication came into scene. We will see that point. So, after completion of Part B, now a new concept of other authentication was introduced. What is the point is here? Whereas with respect to, that means in case of existing registered persons holding the GST identification number, sir, are these people are liable for linkage of Aadhaar with the GST registration? What is your answer? In case of existing registered persons holding the GST identification number. Sir, what does this mean? That means the persons who are already having the GST registration, that means every registered person shall undergo Aadhaar authentication. Shall undergo Aadhaar authentication. Okay, ma'am. So, next point is, sir, what about the persons who are actually applying for fresh registration? The persons who are applying for fresh registration under GST, that means in form number REC01, that means every individual shall undergo Aadhaar authentication while filing application in REC01. That is, practically it will be done post submission of Part B of our GST registration application. Practically it is done post submission of Part B of the GST REC01 application. Sir, okay, if at all he is an individual person, definitely he is liable for Aadhaar authentication because Aadhaar will be given to individuals only. Sir, what about the people, whatever the persons other than individuals, like companies, partnership firms, like that will be there now? Sir, what about them? So, whereas in case of any person other than individual, Aadhaar authentication is required only with respect to certain cases only. Generally, Aadhaar authentication will be there with respect to what we can say, with respect to only few people. That means whereas with respect to HUF, Karta, whereas with respect to HUF, Karta, and whereas with respect to partnership firm, managing partner, that means active partner, and whereas authorized signatories, these are the people or who are the individuals that are required that the Aadhaar authentication should be done. Okay, ma'am. And in the same way, the law says that the person who is not an Indian citizen is not required to get the Aadhaar authentication. The person who is not an Indian citizen is also not required to go for Aadhaar authentication, ma'am. Sir, okay, sir. Aadhaar authentication is it to be done as per the new provisions. What are the consequences if Aadhaar is not assigned to the persons? What are the consequences if the Aadhaar is not assigned to these people? In this case, in this type of circumstances, registration shall be granted to these people only after physical verification of the principal place of business. Okay, ma'am. In this case, registration shall be granted only upon the physical verification of the principal place of business. Okay, ma'am. That physical verification generally will be conducted in presence of the applicant. And previously, the physical verification shall be conducted within a period of 60 days, but now because of the reintroduction of the concept deemed approval, now the physical verification should be done within a period of 21 days. And this particular verification report shall be uploaded by the proper officer within a period of 15 days after the date of such verification. Within a period of 15 days from the date of such verification. Okay, ma'am. So, after verification report is uploaded, then that is okay. The procedure will be there. But now, the latest amendment with respect to this Aadhaar authentication is until, that means up to November 2020 attempt. There is no option to say no to Aadhaar authentication. There is only one option that is given to you. You should undergo Aadhaar authentication. Failure for that, automatically it is treated as a default. But now, for May 2021 attempt onwards, now there is an option to choose no while opting for Aadhaar authentication. There is an option to choose no while opting for Aadhaar authentication. So, as per the new provision that is introduced with effect from 21 August 2020, now the applicant will have to choose whether he wishes to undergo Aadhaar authentication or not. Previously it is mandatory, now it is optional. So, now the applicant will have to choose whether he is willing to undergo Aadhaar authentication or not. In case he chooses no, then the additional steps like physical verification or document verification will be conducted. Okay, ma'am. So, first situation will be like this. If Aadhaar authentication is opted, that means the person is willing to link his GST registration with Aadhaar number. This is Aadhaar authentication, nothing but. Okay. If the person, that means if the applicant chooses yes, then Aadhaar authentication will be done. Sir, how it will be done? What is the procedure? Generally, the procedure will be when you choose the option yes, then your GST portal, GST system will send the authentication link. Link will be sent to you. Link will be sent to concerned person's registered mobile number as well as registered email ID that are registered in, that are mentioned in GST REC 01. Whatever the mobile number, whatever the email ID that is mentioned in GST REC 01, for those mobile numbers and email IDs, the Aadhaar authentication link will be sent by the GST portal. Upon clicking that particular link, which was given to your mobile number as well as email ID, a screen will come with a declaration that where the applicant is needed to enter his Aadhaar number. That means the screen will appear that please enter your Aadhaar number. In that, you should enter your Aadhaar number. In that, you should enter Aadhaar number and click on validate button. There is a button that is known as validate. After entering the Aadhaar number, you have to click validate. Okay, ma'am. So, if at all, the data that is there in your GST common portal, the data that is there in your Aadhaar are matched, then definitely on the successful matching of the details that are provided in GST REC 01 with the Aadhaar data, then OTP will be sent to your registered mobile number with Aadhaar. After entering that OTP, once you enter that particular OTP, in the box provided in the screen, validation will be completed and the message of successful eKYC was done will be shown on the screen. Sir, that means sometimes what happens is the data may not be matched. That means if at all Aadhaar authentication failed, while giving through the above procedure, just now we discussed, it is possible that Aadhaar authentication may fail. Because first point is the details entered in REC 01 mismatch with the details in Aadhaar records. There is a possibility like that. No? Let's say, suppose Rajashekar, without space, you just there in REC01. It is with space in your Aadhaar. Or sometimes it was specified, majority cases, the people will say, what is your name? Shekhar. So it was there in GST registration Shekhar, but whereas it is there in your Aadhaar, Rajshekar. In that particular case, Aadhaar data may not be matched with GST data. So Aadhaar authentication may be failed. In some cases, what happens is, mobile number is not linked to your Aadhaar number. If the mobile number is linked to your Aadhaar number, definitely you will get OTP. If your mobile number is not updated in the records of Aadhaar, then you cannot get the OTP. Na? Then also authentication will fail. And sometimes server may be busy or any other technical issue may be there. In all those cases, Aadhaar authentication is deemed to be failed. Sir, in case Aadhaar authentication is failed, then what is the procedure? If for whatever the reason, Aadhaar authentication was failed, GST identification number would be allotted to the applicant. GST identification number would be allotted to the applicant only after physical verification of the premises. Okay. Alternatively, from May 2021 onwards, even verification of documents is also there. That is different story. In case of failure to authenticate Aadhaar details, GST identification number will be allotted to the applicant only after physical verification is carried out by the proper officer. But from May 2021 onwards, along with physical verification, another method is there, document verification. Okay, ma'am. Now the point is, sir, what can be the date of submission of application? What can be that means which date would be considered as the date of submission of REC01? What is the date of submission of REC01? What we can say? Here the point is, what we can say is, so what can be deemed to be the date of submission of application? Date of submission of REC01. Generally what happens is, if Aadhaar authentication was done successfully, that means your Aadhaar is linked to your GST REC01. In that particular case, the date when Aadhaar authentication was done, that particular date is deemed to be the date of submission of REC01. But sir, what about if Aadhaar authentication is failed? In that particular case, from the date of submission of Part B of GST REC01, the date when you submitted Part B of REC01, 15th day will be considered as date of submission of application. So, what will be the date of submission of application REC01? If where Aadhaar authentication is successfully done within 15 days of submission of Part B, then the date of authentication of Aadhaar will be the date of submission of REC01. Whereas Aadhaar authentication is failed, in that case, on which date Part B of GST REC01 was filed, from that date, 15th day will be the date of submission of REC01 application. Okay, ma. This importance will be later known to you when the concept of deemed approval will come into scene. So remember these two. Okay. Another point is, sir, what if the procedure? What is the procedure if the Aadhaar authentication is not opted while filing GST REC01? Because there is an option that is given to say yes or no. If the applicant chooses no, then definitely what is the procedure, ma? If the applicant has chosen the option no, in this case, other authentication will be done. In this case, other authentication will be done only after the physical verification. But keep it in mind, sir, what can be the date of submission of application? If the applicant has the option to choose no for the Aadhaar authentication, in such a case, GST REC01 shall be considered as filed on the day when Part B of REC01 is submitted. Keep it in mind. When you say no to Aadhaar authentication, okay, ma'am. When you say no to Aadhaar authentication, in that case, what is the date of submission of application? The date when Part B of GST REC01 is submitted, that particular date will be the date of submission of application. But however, in such cases, GST identification number will be allotted to these people only after the physical verification, or another alternative is document verification is carried out by the proper officer. Okay, ma'am. Sir, why the people will choose the option no? Who says? Who knows? Sometimes what happens is applicant may not have the Aadhaar, and he is not willing to take Aadhaar only for GST purpose. The person is not having any Aadhaar number, and he is also not willing to obtain the Aadhaar number for getting GST registration. And in the same way, applicant has the Aadhaar number. But does not want to do Aadhaar authentication for GST registration for whatever the reason. Sometimes what happened is applicant does not have the Aadhaar and does not willing to take the Aadhaar only for the sake of getting GST registration. And in the same way, Aadhaar may have, so applicant may have the Aadhaar number, but whereas he does not want to go for Aadhaar authentication for whatever the reason. Okay, ma. In all these cases, definitely physical verification will be done. GST registration shall be granted to these type of persons only after the physical verification of place of business was done, that too on the present day, on the presence of the said applicant. Sir, is there any time limit that is specified for this physical verification now? Before May 2021 attempt, it is 60 days. But now there is no prescribed or fixed time limit that is specified in the law. But by giving a brief reading of this deemed registration concept, deemed approval of registration concept, it implied that the person, that means the total process of this physical verification shall be completed within 21 days from the date of filing the application. Even though nothing is specified in this regard in this concept, but taking a brief view of the topic with respect to deemed approval of registration, it implied that such process should be completed within a period of 21 days from the date of submission of application. Okay. And after physical verification was done, verification report will be uploaded by the proper officer within a period of 15 days upon such verification. Okay. Sir, is there any other alternative that is there to physical verification? I already told you that. Before May 2021 attempt, that means up to November 2020, there is no concept, any other alternative that is available to physical verification. But now, proper officer may, instead of physical verification of the place of business, carry out the verification of documents as he deems fit. Okay, ma'am. That means instead of physical verification of the premises, he can go for document verification. But two conditions are to be satisfied in order to verify the documents instead of physical verification of the premises. First one, has the reasons to record that, and we record the reasons in writing. Why document verification was chosen instead of physical verification? Has the reasons to record, and he should get the approval of minimum rank of Joint Commissioner. He should get the approval from a minimum officer of not below the rank of Joint Commissioner. If at all these two conditions are satisfied, definitely you can go for document verification instead of physical verification. Okay, ma'am. And another point is that again the concept of deemed approval of application is reintroduced. It was removed in November 2020, whereas it was again inserted in May 2021 attempt. Okay, ma'am. So here, once the application is submitted in REC 01, generally what is the procedure? I will explain to you. After that, what is the amendment? I will tell you. Okay, now after completion of this, proper officer will examine the application and accompanying documents. If everything is okay, if the same are found in order, then generally RC will be granted to those people. Registration certificate will be granted to them. Otherwise, within 3 days or 21 days, depending upon the facts of the case, 3 days or 21 days, if everything is okay, RC will be granted to you. Okay. If proper officer needs some additional clarification, information, documents, then he may issue a show cause notice. If the proper officer will issue a show cause notice, then after receiving that particular show cause notice, the applicant has to reply within 7 days. The applicant has to reply within 7 days. If proper officer is satisfied with the reply that is given by the applicant, he will issue the registration certificate. Otherwise, he will reject the application. But why the application was rejected, reasons should be recorded in writing. Reasons should be recorded in writing. That is the point you should remember, ma'am. That is the point you should remember. Okay, ma'am. So this is general procedures that will be there. So based on this, just I will explain the amendment related point here. Once application in REC 01 is filed, it will be forwarded to the proper officer. Then who in return will examine the application and its accompanying documents. After examining all these accompanying documents, generally there is a possibility of two situations. First one, the proper officer may not have any objections or needs no additional clarification. If proper officer may not have any objection or does not need any additional clarification. Okay, ma. In that case, proper officer has no objections or needs no additional clarification. Generally, if he finds all the information and documents in order, he shall approve the application. And grant registration certificate in REC 06. Okay, ma. Within the prescribed time period of 3 days or 21 days. 3 days or 21 days. Okay. But whereas, if the proper officer has any objections, if the proper officer has certain objections or needs some additional clarifications, need some additional clarifications. In those cases, the proper officer will issue the show cause notice. The proper officer will issue the show cause notice in the form of GST REC 3 within the prescribed time. That means either it may be 3 days or 21 days. In any of the following situations can happen. So I am repeating the word. If the proper officer has certain objections or needs some additional clarification, he will issue a show cause notice. Okay, ma'am. And after generally, when the application submitted is found to be deficient, that means there may be any information, absence of any information may be there. Or information is submitted, but it is lack of clarity. The proper officer may require further clarification. In all those cases, definitely, what is the position, ma'am? In all those cases, definitely, what is the position, ma'am? In all those cases, what happens is, definitely is liable for registration. Sorry, definitely he need, the proper officer will issue the show cause notice and he need to give some replies. Okay, ma'am. Sir, what is the time limit for the issue of show cause notice? What is the time limit for issue of show cause notice? In case Aadhaar authentication is done successfully, then within 3 working days, he will issue the show cause notice. If Aadhaar authentication is done successfully, within 3 working days, he will issue the show cause notice. Okay, ma'am. Sir, if at all Aadhaar authentication was not done, then within 21 days, he can issue the show cause notice. See the difference. If Aadhaar authentication was done, then what is the procedure, ma'am? What is the procedure? If Aadhaar authentication was done, then the procedure will be within 3 working days, he can issue the show cause notice. Okay, ma'am. Whereas Aadhaar authentication was not done, within 21 days, he can issue the show cause notice. Aadhaar is linked, then show cause notice has to be issued within a period of 3 days. If Aadhaar authentication was not done, then show cause notice will be issued. Within a period of 21 days. Okay, ma'am. Then if no action is taken by the proper officer in the prescribed time limit, the registration application shall be deemed to be approved. That means with respect to Aadhaar authentication was done, show cause notice has to be issued within a period of 3 working days. If it was not done, application is deemed to be approved. In the same way, if Aadhaar is not linked, then show cause notice shall be issued within a period of 21 days. If show cause notice was not issued within 21 days, then application is deemed to be approved. This is the point you should remember with respect to Aadhaar authentication procedure. Okay, ma'am.